Good evening. You're listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEG Talk Radio.com. Click live stream tab or watch us live on your smart TV, YouTube, WCEG Network. I'm Dr. Cassandra Wanzo, your host for the next 90 minutes of Mind Matters. We're the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at WCEG_talk_radio and at WCEG Network. Last but not least, the topics and opinions are those of the show host and guest and not WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support. Good evening again. As I said, I'm Dr. Cassandra Wanzo. Welcome to Mind Matters, where we discuss relevant mental health issues. I've been practicing psychiatry in Atlanta for the past 29 years. Our co-host is Officer Paul DesVignes, who has more than 20 years experience in law enforcement. Hi, Paul. Uh-oh, you're muted. We're affectionately known as the Doc and the Cop. Our guest co-host, Paul, are you?
I am here. Hi, Doc. How are you?
Paul, okay.
Hey, Norm. How's it going?
How are you? How are you? Doing fine, thank you.
Our guest co-host is Norman Carter, Jr. Norm is a retired Philadelphia police corporal who's written a very informative book, The Long Blue Walk, My Journey as a Philly Cop. It is available on Amazon. Today is the last day of Amazon Prime. He also hosts his own show on WCEG titled Issues and Answers on Monday. Welcome back and hi, Norm.
Hello, thank you, doctor.
So our topic this evening is one I've been waiting to do for a long time. Our topic is the psychology behind Trump and his supporters. Let me repeat, the psychology behind Trump and his supporters. So this is a very interesting topic. We're going to devote 2 shows to it. So tonight we're going to focus on him. I won't say his name anymore. And the next show we'll focus on his supporters. Oh, I guess I have to say his name because I'm quoting from a book. Okay, here's the quote. Donald Trump is a profound danger to Americans and to the rest of the world. He will remain a profound danger until he is no longer president. This danger is clearly the result from Trump's serious mental impairments. I'm gonna read this again. Donald Trump is a profound danger to Americans and to the rest of the world. He will remain a profound danger until he is no longer president, since the danger clearly results from Trump's serious mental impairments. This is the opening line in a book titled The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. That's the opening sentence. This book was written by 37 psychiatrists and mental health specialists from well-known top medical institutions. In 1973, the American Psychiatric Association enacted what's commonly known as the Goldwater Rule, which prohibits mental health professionals from diagnosing a public health figure without formal clinical evaluation. However, In the wake of Donald Trump's election, these 37 psychiatrists and psychologists abandoned this rule. They argue it's their duty to warn. In psychiatry, if someone is going to harm a person, you have it's called the Tear-Soft rule, a duty to warn. So they felt the duty to warn superseded the Goldwater rule. So they felt it was a duty to warn the world and the public in response to Trump's behavior. So they wrote this book, The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. It's about this thick. They also state in the book, the leader of the free world has proven time and time again that he's unfit for duty. They determined that he's mentally incapable of serving as president because of several personality factors, behaviors that he suffers. The main one is he suffers from pathologic narcissistic personality disorder. In some of the statements, he said, I alone can fix it. I know more about ISIS than the generals believe me, and on and on. He's made so many statements. So basically, a narcissistic personality disorder, they have a grandiose sense of self-importance. They're preoccupied with fantasies of unlimited power. They believe they're special and unique. They require excessive admiration. They have a sense of entitlement. They expect that everything, that they deserve everything. They are exploitive. They take advantage of others to their own ends. They lack empathy for the feelings and needs of others. And they show arrogant, haughty behaviors and attitudes. That sound like anybody? I mean, so this book is really thick. I'm just going to cover a few of the other things that they suggest. They said he has delusional beliefs. He exhibits hedonism. He lives in the present moment, pleasure seeking. He avoids pain. He has little or no thought to the future or the consequences of his actions. He's impulsive. Just look at some of the tweets he makes. He dehumanizes people. So he has a propensity to dehumanize others. Like, for instance, when he made fun, remember that disabled reporter that he mocked and made fun? That's characteristic of him dehumanizing people. They described him as a serial liar. There was one statement that he made about how he watched when the World Trade Center was coming down during 9/11. He watched thousands of people cheering. That didn't happen. That was a lie, but they say he's a serial liar. He exhibits misogyny. Like, one of the statements he made is about women. He said, you have to treat them like shit. That was the actual quote he made in 1992. And then one of the most famous quotes he made, when you're a star, they let you do it. Grab them by the, I don't know if I can say that on air, but you know, by the female genitalia. So you can do anything. He also made a statement about his daughter's body, and if he wasn't her father, he'd be dating her. I mean, those kind of statements. He's paranoid. Here's a statement he made about his, that exhibits his paranoia. This is what the actual statement he said. The world is a vicious and brutal place. It is a cruel world, and people are ruthless. They act nice to your face, but underneath, they're out to kill you. Even your friends are out to get you. They want your job. They want your house. They want your money. They want your wife. They even want your dog. And these are your friends.
Wow.
Wow,
Do they want my bills too? I'd be happy to share those.
Two other traits I'm just going to discuss and then open it to discussion. One is that he's a racist, which we well know. He's made several statements, like when Omarosa, who used to work for him in the housewife in the White House, he called her a lowlife and a dog. He actually said that he called her a lowlife and a dog, Omarosa. As you know, with all Black women, he's made condescending remarks, calling, low IQ individual. And it's only to Black women that he's really said those types of condescending remarks, although he did talk about Rosie O'Donnell and her appearance. Here's some other statements he made. He called NFL players sons of bitches. He said, why are we allowing all these people from shithole countries? And he was referring to like Africa to come here. He said, look at my African American over here. Look at him.
Right.
This is something he said in 1991. Laziness is a trait in Blacks. I really believe that. And then about Mexicans, he said they're rapists. You know, he said some of them I assume are good people. And then the last one of the, I mean, the whole book is full of traits that they have, but another prominent issue that they described in him is a sociopathy. This is the person who cons, lies, cheats to get what they want. And so I'm not gonna go through all the traits, I'm gonna go through some of the traits of sociopathy. They said he has severe sociopathic traits. He's manipulative, he lacks empathy, he has an absence of guilt, he intentionally manipulates people, he sadistically harms others, he bullies, and he's very charming. Those are just some of the traits. And usually those sociopathic traits are the traits that you find in criminals. So these are all the reasons they say he's unfit. This is like 37 mental health professionals who wrote this book this thick saying that he's unfit. Wow, so
Wow.
reactions.
Yeah, you said a mouthful.
Yes.
It just reminds me, in keeping with what you said,
Mhm.
yesterday, he made a speech before senior citizens
Uh-huh.
and in Florida. And when you listen to the speech, he sounded like Jim Jones telling the people to drink the Kool-Aid.
What did he say? I missed
This is where he was telling the people that, asking who had the virus and telling them that they're immune.
Wow.
And you know, I'm immune, you're immune.
Mhm.
And you know, if I could, I'd come down and kiss all of you. I'd kiss the women, I'd kiss the men. This is
Mhm.
this is pathological behavior.
Mhm.
And it's funny, not funny, but if you remember the month he was elected, the congresswoman from California
Maxine
was
Waters.
she was the first to
Mhm.
say that there was something mentally wrong with him.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes, and she at that time she said that Article 25
Mhm.
should be invoked, and that was talked about for about 2 months, and
Mhm.
then it sort of died down, and now it not only has reigned its head in that book, but
Mhm.
if you just make a cursory observation of his behavior, it's anyone is displaying those traits, some of which are brutal,
Mhm.
would be considered for commitment to some sort of
Mhm.
program, mental health program.
Mhm. The narcissism, sociopathy, lying, racism, misogyny. I mean, this is someone who's occupying the White House. It's just
Yes.
unbelievable.
So that would make him multi-talented.
So, Paul, unless you haven't said anything.
You know, I'm listening to you and Norm.
Mhm.
And as I'm listening to you guys, I got to tell you, I see history repeating itself.
Hmm.
1930, Germany
Okay.
became Nazi Germany.
I was going there.
You know, this is where
Mhm.
my interest, personal interest, you know, my whole academic life, I was a history major. That is my true love, history.
Mhm. Mhm.
And when I saw the rise of Adolf Hitler,
Mhm.
I saw how Germany was in such disarray after the First World War. And
Mhm.
Adolf Hitler promised them, I'm going to restore national pride. I'm
Uh-huh.
going to restore the Aryan nation. I'm going to restore the economy. I'm going to restore Germany's place among the great nations of this world.
Mhm.
Even the most intelligent people, the most cultured, you know, the Van Roffens and all the aristocrats of the German society fell behind this lowly corporal in the German army. How did someone at the little bottom of German society rise up to the very top?
Mhm.
I see the same traits and the
Mhm.
same fanatical promises and devious method of capturing the so-called national pride of Americans that Adolf Hitler did with Germans.
Mm.
And they did it in such a methodical way that first you had to eliminate all your competition within your borders.
Mm.
Then you started d- telling the people, some people like to use the term brainwash. I don't use that. Basic said, listen, if you want to be part a world power again, you're going to have to fight for it. First, we're going to eradicate everything that's home that's held us back, starting with the Jews and everyone else who's not of Aryan descent. And it amazed me a man who did not fit the ideal Aryan prototype, or should I say stereotype, but yet he commanded
Mm-hmm.
those who did.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
Yep.
I see the same thing with Donald Trump. It's a very amazing do as I say, not as I do type mentality.
Mm.
Right.
Yet you have very prominent, intelligent people, and we all think his supporters are the lowest ones or they dumb. No, he has very prominent people with deep pockets following him. Same as Adolf Hitler.
Mm.
At the end of the day, to me, history is repeating itself.
Mm.
And Donald Trump is a modern day incarnation of Adolf Hitler.
Who is it? His wife, ex-wife said he had a copy of Mein Kampf by the bed. That's what she said. He had a copy. His ex-wife Ivana said he had a copy of Mein Kampf next to the bed.
Makes
Well, I'll be
sense.
honest with you. I
Mhm.
have copies of it as well because
Oh,
no, you got to understand.
what?
One of the things, it's like every autobiography of every gangster, every criminal. I have. Why? Because you will never defeat an enemy you don't know.
Okay, okay,
Reading allows you to understand their mentality, their
okay,
ideology, that they would not stop at any length, do
okay.
whatever it takes. And when you have a sitting president in the 21st century say, if I'm not reelected, this country is going to go into civil war and prepare for war. And you have militias now who think you can honestly kidnap the governor, a sitting governor,
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
and really think that
yes.
you have a green light to
Mhm.
create the kind of anarchy that we see in movies. But this is real, people. This is happening. Come on, Norm, help me here.
Yeah. Well, he gave them the order when he said, "Stand back and stand by."
Yes, yes.
Uh, and another thing in line with what you're saying, and I hope we're not going to get off track, but I put out I reposted a news article that was originally printed July 19th, 2016, where a Holocaust survivor
Mm.
who had been involved in um, searching out Nazis and whatever, and he has a long reputation for that. But what he said was that a lot of the Nazis repatriated into the United States, and that they looked for a political party to settle in, and they settled in the Republican Party.
Hmm.
So when you have people like Stephen Miller, who
Oh,
actually pulls the strings of Donald Trump,
yes, yes.
people need to be very watchful of this man. And what's odd about this is that his parents were immigrant Jews,
Yes.
which is odd. But he pulls Donald Trump's strings,
Mhm.
and he is an evil man.
Mhm.
But as Paul was saying, and my wife says it all the time,
Mhm.
Hitler had his facilitators, just as Donald Trump has his facilitators. They know that there's mentally something deficient
Mhm.
with him, but what he is, and is a beacon for people who think like them, and he is their conduit to power.
So
So
you think they really acknowledge his mental
of course they do.
Okay.
Yes, they would have to, and they play on that,
Absolutely.
and you know that that's easily done for people who are
Absolutely.
narcissistic. You
Mhm.
just keep massaging them.
Yeah, that's what Putin does. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And if you notice, he always, when he talked about the what is not, I want to say Al-Anon, but that's not their name. but it's this new group out there that talks about the deep state.
Oh,
When
QAnon, the QAnon.
QAnon. Whenever when he talks about them, he says, "Well, all I know is that they like me."
Yes.
When he talks about Putin and he talks about the leader of Korea, he always says, "Well, they like me and we get along well." That's that adulation that he needs, and this is how they pull his strings.
They are one and the same.
Yes.
I want to look at it. They're one and the same. And at this point in the game, it's important people to realize history does repeat itself.
Yes.
And we are seeing this live in action. They say the revolution will not be televised.
It's televised.
And this is where the term evil prevails when good men sit by and do nothing.
Hey, that's on my business card.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Edmund Burke. Yes.
We are at that point in American history, which could easily become a major catalyst for world history if we actually see another conflict on the level of the Second World War. Keep this in mind. We have lost allies on both sides of the fence. At what point do we stop and say we have degress and not progress?
The statement that one of you were making about these guys planning to kidnap the governor of Tennessee, yes, he's emboldened domestic terrorists. And in the book, they even have a chapter where they call it the Trump effect. And that's what they're calling the Trump effect. His tendency to embolden terrorists, to embolden bullying, racial discrimination, like the reason that they've burned down mosques, they've said they've desecrated Jewish cemeteries, they've harassed immigrant children, African-American children are being bullied. All of this they're saying is the Trump effect.
And we just had, don't forget, we just had 2 churches burned in Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Last week. Was it last week? Yes.
Oh, okay, I missed that.
Yes, I think one is in South Fulton County, or either both of them are in South Fulton County.
These black churches?
Yes.
Okay, so all this they're calling the Trump effect, and the Southern Law Poverty Center has documented and said all these are the effect of Trump, the Trump effect. All this bullying carried to mass level against people of color, immigrants, people that are different, and it's all because of him. Like when he made that statement as of today, something about I will stop some of the Muslim ban that he made. I mean, Muslim bans, everything that he does. It's just the racism and find people on both sides, so they feel emboldened, and that's what they're calling the Trump effect. That is a real thing, a real phenomenon.
And I'm a little leery of using terms like that.
Well, they're saying they've studied it. It's a real thing. It's a real thing.
But see, the Trump effect, I tell people all the time, long after Trump is gone, and long before Trump got to where he at, that mentality was hit there. This is nothing.
No, Paul. No, it's increased. The number of hate crimes, all of those have increased under him, and that's what they're calling the Trump effect.
Because
they increased under him.
They finally have a figurehead that's saying in a powerful position that said, "Hey, you know what? We can do this now. You know what? This is mainstream." But this is what America was so complacent and blind to that this existed, that most people never even imagined to this day and age that something like this can be happening right now. We saw riots throughout this country, and most of those riots, we're looking at it from the methods and incidents from the police, but really these are people who finally said, "Listen, enough is enough," because it goes from police-related issues to national issues. People are really scared at this point because I keep hearing people talk about the possibility of a civil war. So I'm like, listen, come on. We're still the United States of America. There's still some rationality. We have checks and balances to an extent to say, hey, listen, no matter how much we push these boundaries, we still got to realize that eye for eye will leave everybody blind.
Right. But these guys have openly said, like the Boogaloos and all those other groups, militias, they said that if Trump loses, that there will be civil war. They're saying that openly. They're saying that.
Yeah. here's something that just I'm hoping that it's not true, but it's something that's I picked up just before this program, and it's on Twitter about Lindsey Graham. I don't know whether you've seen that.
I'm
I
not
know
on
the
Twitter.
name, but
You know which one I'm talking about at the hearing today, and I missed it. I didn't have a chance to watch it, but he's talking to the new judge, or
Oh,
the
yes.
new judge, and
Yes.
he says to her, they're talking about Brown versus Board of Education, and he uses the phrase "back in the good old days of segregation."
Exactly.
What these people have always been here, but they never were empowered. And
exactly,
everything they had to do, they did undercover what they did. The difference
exactly,
now is they're out in the open. But this is still the Trump effect. If you go back a little in distant history and you read Machiavelli, the prince, and one of his dictates was keep an enemy at the door. And Trump started off with this when he began demonizing Mexicans, and that evolved into not just Mexicans, but also people of the Islamic faith, people who came from those countries, people who came from the S-hole countries.
Right.
This is all Machiavellian demonization, which allows you to coalesce people around a certain cause. And that's how you begin to form your base. You create an enemy, even when that group is not an enemy, and you maintain that. Keeping an enemy, there's always has to be, and it's somewhat juvenile, there has to be us against them. They are the threats. This is what Hitler did. He created an enemy of the Jews, and the people fell into that. And so when you think of how crazy that is, where actual citizens were going out and participating in abusing and killing Jews. And here in the United States, we had citizens going out and abusing and killing Latin Americans and Black people. This is recently. This is all recent. And this is all because of the leadership at the top. My boss used to always say, a rotten fish smells first from the top. And that's where you have to look. It's all about Donald Trump. He is catering to, and I looked at his demographic. I was doing some research for this. He caters to people who are undereducated. That is the predominance of his base. And recent studies have shown that that base is diminishing. They're still there, but they're diminishing. So, and if you go to the voting polls, as I did 2 days ago, it's obvious that a lot of people are angry. A lot of people are coming or are realizing what was created when 43 million people did not vote. So, and what you have here, if you remember, Ronald Reagan during his last year, he was mentally incapacitated. He was in the throes of Alzheimer's. But the people around him not only protected him, they protected the country. That is not the case with Donald Trump.
wow. You know, I'm a gun enthusiast, Second Amendment guy to the heart, but not for the purpose of personal protection or protecting my property. You know, I'm a collector and I'm an avid shooting competitor. When I see gun sales go through the roof, I see ammunition shortages like I've never experienced in my lifetime. I see people arming themselves for Armageddon. Only thing that come to mind is the Purge movies. It's like people are actually preparing to wage war. And the crazy thing about it, they're preparing to fight over communities. not to band together and fight off a common enemy that may try to invade the American continent and take away our quality of life, but to fight community by community each other. This
Well,
scares me.
that's the danger of having a mentally deficient person in the White House. Uh,
This is
he
where the checks and balances of power have to come in play. This
he's
is
killed that. He emasculated the Republican Party.
wow.
So that was part of your checks and balances.
Well, what do you mean he emasculated the Republican
In
Party?
other words, they're gutless.
Oh,
They see what's going on. We have intelligent, college-educated men and women in the Republican Party who know that they're in positions of leadership in their states, and they know that this man is mentally deficient, but he is their means to their end.
Exactly.
And sadly, they, in doing so, they are betraying the United States of America.
Actually, not only they betraying, but when everything is said and done, at some point, Trump reign will end. And the first thing out of their mouth going to be like former Nazi soldiers and part of the inner circle. Well, I followed orders. I can't be held responsible. That was repeated over and over and over at the Nuremberg trials. I was just a simple soldier who followed orders. No, you was a major collaborator. Your enthusiasm to commit crimes against humanity not only were well documented, but you never imagined that you would have to pay for your crimes. You never imagined that you would suffer the consequences of your actions. More so, you were so blatantly arrogant that you felt that you were above the law, world law. We're not even going to bring in God's law. You felt you were above the world law. And as long as Adolf Hitler was in power and you was able to stand behind him and let him make the decision that you enthusiastically followed, that's where we at right now. We have a Mitch McConnell that has thoroughly submitted himself as Trump's right-hand man. No matter what evil you do, I will support and facilitate it. It's one thing to talk about political parties and say, well, you know what? That's politics. Everybody had their allies. You're supposed to stick with your own. But like Norm just said, we're borderline treason now because you're destroying a country, the very fabric of a country, and you're pitting American versus American. We reached the point now, the values of the Constitution, we the people, are no longer valid. That's the scary part. We the people are no longer valid. If this was a literary term, this would be a slippery slope.
Yeah.
You got decisions to make.
So I think about here they are trying to rush through a Supreme Court nominee who they know is going to, knock down the Affordable Care Act. He's going to reverse Roe versus Wade, and that's their whole point.
Yes.
I mean, they don't even have a plan. Republicans don't even have a health plan, but yet they're going to dismantle the one that we have.
This is true. It's this all, and I'm trying to be a little bit in the present, where I'm looking at the high voter turnout across the country, and this may well be an example of what we read in Paradise Lost by John Milton, where the devil was thrown out of heaven, and those angels who supported him went right to hell with him. And it very well could be, if we have the type of intelligent public and electorate that I think we have, is that a lot of Trump's facilitators are going to be thrown out with him in November 3rd.
I hope so.
Well, unfortunately, the hope is right now is 50-50.
You think so? I thought the polls were, well, I'm not going to listen to the polls.
I voted today, and the average wait time was 2.5 to 3 hours in the county I live. Fortunately, I was smart enough to request an absentee ballot over a month ago. So, but after I watched the lines, I looked at the diversity of the people in the lines. I looked how determined people were, regardless of who they were voting for, but they were determined to vote.
Yes.
This has went from a Democratic a democratic process to
Mhm.
now a competition
Wow.
to see who's going to get the power to be able to
Mhm.
dominate the other.
Mm. Okay.
Normally, when you going to vote, people talk, and a lot of times, people are civil, hey, regardless of who you're voting for. If you start paying attention to a lot of these voting lines now, and
Mhm.
I understand covert keeps that distance between us, but people, there seem to be more animosity and anger than people standing in line. They're like, hey, everybody's like, it's election time. Let's go ahead and band together. We are American. Let's select the best leader and the best party possible.
Mhm.
People are voting out of fear.
Oh. Okay.
That's what it looked like to me, out of fear. If I don't, will my quality of life or my life be at jeopardy at this point?
Okay. Okay.
Your life is in jeopardy now.
Wow.
Your
Yes.
life is in jeopardy now. Uh, I'm talking about Donald Trump.
Mhm.
I will say his name because we need to remember who and what he is. He is promoting this herd
Mhm.
immunity. And I just heard a commentary on TV about that this afternoon on the news. And most people have no understanding what it is. And his base, they're
Mhm.
talking about
Mhm.
herd immunity.
Mhm.
Rand Paul from Kentucky,
Mhm.
he's talking about herd immunity. And what that means is when you break it all the way down, is that in this country, 20 million people would have to die
Mhm.
before this country would achieve the herd immunity that they're talking about.
20 million.
20 million. There would have to be 200,000 people, 200 million people infected. And
Wow.
out of that 200 million, 10% are expected to die.
Wow.
This is what herd immunity is. This is what this president, this mentally ill president, is promoting. And
Mhm.
you know what's ironic about this? Did you know that his son Barron
I
supposedly
heard
just got
that.
over COVID-19?
I heard that. Yes.
The
Yes.
chickens are really coming home to roost.
Right. He had 34 people in the White House who were affected. He's a super spreader. The
Yes,
chief of White House security is gravely ill, they said, in the hospital now. The chief of White House security is gravely ill.
that's
Wow.
that's that's sad.
And they
That's
say
sad.
he knew beforehand that he still went out and he had some events, even though he knew he was positive. And then back in February, he knew that it was airborne back in February and lied and pretend like he didn't know until he had that, that interview with Bob Woodward. So he knew all along. That's part of his psychopathology.
But that goes back to your narcissism to the
Exactly.
to the point where it's deadly,
Mhm.
because he needs that adulation to the degree that even if he goes out and kills people, it's
Mhm.
okay with him because there's no empathy in this man.
Exactly. That's part of the narcissistic personality and the sociopathy. The narcissism and the sociopathy, those two, oh my goodness, he's a criminal. He's a con man. That's what he is.
In
Yeah.
Nazi Germany, experienced an event in the 30s called a Night of the Long Knives.
Mm.
Hmm.
And that's where we are.
Hmm.
What's the Night of the Long Knives?
Yeah.
The,
That
to
was
put it in layman's terms, that was the turning point
Mm.
of Adolf Hitler submitting power, consolidating power, eliminating competition, taking away anybody like Trump is doing who even remotely may be in and be able to check his reign of power, his rise.
Mhm.
And
they assassinated his competition.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Yes.
Mm.
and the sad part about it is we may not be physically assassinated, but we're very much, as Norm stated, we're silencing, we're censoring, we're eliminating
Mhm.
anyone,
Mhm.
even within his own party,
Mm.
who even remotely may challenge
Mm.
where he's taking his country.
Mm. This is a question. Someone wants to know the difference between psychology and psychopathology. Psychology is the scientific study of the mind and behavior. Psychopathology is abnormal behavior, which this president exhibits. So it's abnormal behavior, psychopathology. So that's what they wanted to know. So to the person who wrote in wanted with that question. That's the difference.
Important to note.
He exhibits psychopathology, abnormal psychology.
It's I haven't heard this book promoted. I don't know whether you want to give the title again and who wrote it.
Yes, we got it right here. Let's see. This is The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump.
Wow.
How thick it is. It's very thick.
Wow.
And it's 37 authors. It's 37 psychiatrists and mental health experts who wrote chapters in here. So yeah, I ordered it through Amazon. The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think probably you've heard that JAMA, the medical association, they just came out and criticized the government's policy on COVID-19.
Yes.
How dangerous the policy is, and they've never done anything like this.
Right. Yes. Yes. So
the information is out there. People need to pay attention. And of course, there are going to be many people who will not, there's still people, in spite of all that's happened, and I heard it on TV last night, that consider this all a hoax.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is dumbfounding.
Right.
Absolutely dumbfounding. But this is the type of mentality that allowed Adolf Hitler to do what he did with impunity. And Donald Trump, he's trying to emulate that same behavior.
Exactly.
And let me go ahead and say, we have several elected officials. Some have already been elected, but to me, two of the most dangerous in the state of Georgia right now.
I know who you're gonna say, Vernon Jones.
No. Vernon Jones doesn't bother me.
Really?
Vernon
Okay.
Jones is nothing more than a pawn.
Okay, so who?
Aaron Handel, who's very much as mentally incompetent and as mentally dangerous as Donald Trump.
Okay.
And Kelly Loeffler.
Oh yeah, definitely. I agree with her. Oh yes.
Males. And, and one of the things I want to point out, we always think of the world events and some of the most greatest human atrocities in the world. Well, only a man could do that. No, women guided so much. Women, when they in that position and have that same mentality as an Adolf Hitler or Donald Trump, they are even better at creating atrocities. Why? Women think a lot more analytical than men do. Women cover every base. And when a woman who has an evil mind collaborate that with the ability and power to carry out whatever wants to be done, it is a power to be reckoned with.
Wow.
Well,
two female local candidates for political offices that may be just as dangerous as Donald Trump.
Well, I think you also have to look at Collins and Lindsey Graham, who have both sold their souls to Donald Trump in a most, I mean, an unmanly way. I hate to say this, but when you lose your manhood, when you make a statement that says, this is my word and you can count on it in 4 years,
as
Lindsey Graham did, and now with no shame, he completely reverses his position.
Exactly.
The truth is in front of you, as it was with Collins, who's also from Georgia. He's a male. And your truth is in front of you, and you sit there and vilify a lieutenant colonel who was wounded in combat in order to preserve Donald Trump in office at an impeachment hearing. That is not unmanly. That's inhumane. And these people, I hate to say it, but I must say it, need to be voted out. I have never in my life said that we should vote straight Democratic or vote straight Republican, because I think, number one, that type of voting is both lazy and ignorant, because then you're not looking at the persons, you're looking at some party illusion. But this election, the country needs to send a message.
Mhm.
And it's scary. For me, it's personally scary to have an administration or our leadership be totally democratic, because as we know, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Right.
Checks and balances require that we have diversity in our government and in our legislatures. But what we have in our legislatures now is a total emasculation, a total abandonment of human decency, and that's all centered in the Republican Party.
Exactly. Exactly.
But it's the Trump effect.
Yes. Something else that they mentioned in the book, they call Trump anxiety disorder. And what that happened, it was like the reaction to what happened with the whole election and the fact that he lost the popular vote by 3 million. And what they said, this led to an unprecedented level of post-election shock, grief, anxiety, disbelief, fear, frustration that affected about 50% of the population, is what they said, were affected by that.
And
I know that I woke up the next day crying.
Right.
Yeah.
And their anxieties became reality.
Yes,
4 years
exactly.
later, it became. I remember during this election when he won, that riots that were taking place nationwide. People in disbelief, people upset, people were going through all kinds of mental traumas.
Exactly.
But you know, unfortunately, once again, we did not consistently demand accountability from our elected officials. We until as of late, you know, we had all of the police related incidents in covert itself. Now we're in a position where, like, wow, how did we get to this point? How did we allow this to happen? Keep in mind, 4 short years. 4 short years. This country
Drinking the
went from
Kool-Aid.
complacent to chaos.
Drinking the Kool-Aid. A lot of people drank it.
But I remember in my office after the election, I mean, I had all kind of reactions from patients. I had this one little elderly Caucasian female, as passive and calm as she wanted, as she had ever been. And after the election, the first thing she said to me, "I wish I could kill him." I was like, "What?" This is passive, most peaceful lady you'd ever meet. That's the first thing. "I wish I could kill him." I was shocked. I wish I could kill him.
Yeah. His
yeah.
He's But this is an example of what happens when the public stops actually looking at a candidate, and you listen to, and Donald Trump is bad, and when I go with his facilitators, I really have to talk about Fox News.
Okay.
What comes out of Fox News is perceived by so many as truth, and it's dangerous. I mean,
have you ever watched Fox?
I've watched Fox because I want to see what they're talking about.
Okay.
Because as I would talk to a local politician several years ago, you have to know what the enemy is talking about and what their plan is. And when you don't do that, you do a disservice to yourself. And this Tucker Carlson, who has been sued by I forget who sued him, but they sued him for slander, sued him and Fox News for slander. And Fox News got out of it, cleared themselves because they said that what comes across in his show is not to be believed. So Fox News, they sort of abandoned him, but they still carry his programming. And he is totally against Dr. Fauci. He's called him the chief buffoon.
Really?
Yes. That was on May 13th, 2020.
Wow.
There's so many other things that come across on Fox News where they demonize anyone who speaks against Donald Trump, anyone who tries to verify, if we need verification at this time, that COVID-19 is a real and present danger to this country. And anyone who talks about remedies such as wearing masks, shutting down certain services, closing bars, they demonize these people. And there are millions of people who watch this program, and that for them, that program is their avenue to the truth. Donald Trump calls up on that station almost every morning.
Oh, he does? He
The
calls?
Fox and Friends.
Really? Oh.
Almost every morning. He calls up there and they give him carte blanche.
This is radio TV. It's radio.
This is television.
Oh, okay.
He has carte blanche to talk as long as he wants without commercial. Whenever he calls up, they suspend commercials and they let him talk and ramble for as long as he wants. That's Fox News almost every morning.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
What time does that come on? I mean, I've never.
I think they come on around 7 in the morning, Fox and Friends.
Okay.
Yeah. It's this is not what news is supposed to be. But it's dangerous and people are dying because of it. And you know, I think that's where the laughing has to stop. This man is not only mentally ill, he is killing people. He's responsible for people dying. And it's horrendous. That there are people that I know who have died from COVID-19.
Same here. People
and
didn't know.
It's sad and it's alarming because these deaths, these 216,000 deaths did not have to happen. And the people who are infected in the United States, people look at this as a cold. When you're over it, you're done. That's not true. There's residual damage that comes from being infected with this disease.
On the lungs, the heart, the brain. I mean, long-term effects. Yes. Wow. The thing is, and if he was already deranged before, since he's had the dexamethasone steroids, oh my God, he's gone really off the chain since then.
And we forgot, and we just not dismissed the side effects from the steroids that he's taken. And some of the ridiculous statements that he's made since then in the past week and a half. Yeah, it would be funny if we're not so deadly. And it's us right here in the United States of America, and our emasculated government officials cannot do anything about it.
He's coming to Georgia on Friday. Did y'all know he's coming here on Friday?
Yes. Because Georgia, this is the first time in recent over 20 years that Georgia is in danger of going Democratic.
That's why when I posted on Facebook, this guy a few years ago made this song about hide your wife, hide your kids. So
Yes.
You know what, people, seriously, don't be surprised if you start seeing modern day reprints of the Willie Lynch diaries. There's a good possibility,
right,
that, you know, hate is nothing new,
right,
and the doctrine, or shall I say the manifesto of hate, is truly a document that has stood the test of time. Don't be surprised if you see the Willie Lynch diaries with a modern day twist. That's what I feel we're going to at this point.
Can you say more about that? Can you say more about that?
Well, you know, on the most basic level, even with the Black Republican Party, they hosted a benefit several weeks ago, and it's a clear-cut divide and conquer type technique. Even amongst the Democratic Party, even amongst the racial lines, it's amazing how he has supporters.
Well, I mean, with Candace Owens, you know, she had the Blexit, and that's why she had all those people at the White House right while he was still probably infective, mostly brown people and Black people that they paid to come to DC to hear him. I mean,
hold on. They were paying people to come?
They paid them.
Hey. What was my invite?
They paid for the transportation and they paid for their lodging.
What?
To be there on Saturday. Yes. I think it was 250 people of color.
Was it? I know it was a lot. I don't remember.
It was a lot. Yeah, but it was a lot. But they were packed like sardines.
Yes.
Kind of like slave ships, huh?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yes.
It's crazy. And it's sad that here in the 21st century, we have people of color who are comfortable allowing themselves to be used. And I mean, that's really being used to the max.
And not just uneducated, uncaring. We're talking pillars of the community, the business community.
Like Herman Cain. Herman Cain.
Yes.
Educated Black people.
Yeah, let's not forget Herman Cain.
They got their first in the mule.
Did they mention him at all at the RNC?
No.
Wow.
No.
Yeah, I heard Herman Cain wasn't going to make that meeting.
Yeah.
But they didn't even mention him at the RNC. So.
Yeah. Well, that's an embarrassment because that was a Black man that he used. And that was a Black man whose famous saying, I think I said this your last program, his famous saying on his radio program is, "We're not stupid." And here we have a grown man committing one of the most stupid acts of all, going to an indoor rally without a mask and skinning and grinning as much as he could. And now he's dead. Did
y'all see Saturday Night Live this past week?
I missed it, but I recorded it.
Oh my goodness. I got to tell you that in the monologue, like part of, they had like two flies. One was supposed to be Biden, but the other fly was Herman Cain. I even did a screenshot of his exactly what he said. This is what the fly who was Herman Cain was supposed to be reincarnated. He said, "These fools, Trump and Pence, killed me, man. They invited me to a rally and said, everything was fine, Herman. I catch corona. Trump tells me everything's fine, Herman. The White House doctors check me out, tell me everything's fine, Herman. 3 days later, I'm gone. If you're watching this at home, don't trust this white devil about that Rona." I was like, whoa.
I have to watch that as soon as this is over.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I recorded it. That is something. Even 2 weeks ago, Chris Rock did a great monologue about what's going on with Donald Trump and the country, and it's.
Where was it? He did it on TV or where?
We did it on Saturday Night Live.
On
Saturday Night Live.
I taped that one with Megan Thee. I taped the show. I didn't see it.
Yeah. And one of his comments he made was, and Fox News replayed it and talked about it disparagingly, where he says, when they said that Donald Trump had COVID-19, he says, "Well, I feel for COVID-19."
That was my favorite part.
Yeah.
Yeah. My sympathy, my condolences.
Yeah.
Oh boy. But when all jokes aside, boy, I've never seen a time in my lifetime where it's like, wow, do I need to gear up? Do I need to fortify my house? Do I need to be ready to, duke it out for my community, not just but for my community? Hey, literally,
this is it. This is the danger of going back to the Trump effect. I'm going to use that term. I like it.
Okay.
Where you have these militia groups out now walking around with AR-15s. Folks, this is not a joke. If this election becomes controversial, these people are going to be out on the streets. This is dangerous. I think these open carry laws are are stupid. We are not in the 17 and 1800s in the wild, wild west. We live in a civilized society. There is absolutely no reason for a man to be walking down the street with an AR-15 or a shotgun. That's a problem. To allow these people come to demonstrations, that's dangerous. And
they say it's your Second Amendment right.
I understand.
The right to carry and bear arms.
Here's the thing. The Second Amendment was created because the United States, they didn't have an army then, but they had to form militias and they had no money. So they could not afford to buy arms for the soldiers. So they encouraged people to bring their own weapons. And prior to that, it was against the law for them to have weapons. So that Second Amendment was created so people could bear arms to defend the country. They didn't have an army then that could pay for weapons. We have an army now. This is the 21st century. The Army provides weapons to its soldiers, so they're not asking people to bring their own weapons. And we're stuck on this stupid Second Amendment that should have been repealed years ago, or at least revised, because it has no application in a modern society where people feel that they have a right to walk around with AR-15s in the street. That doesn't make any sense. I can see being armed to protect your home. I can see carrying a weapon, a pistol to protect yourself and having a license to do that. But an AR-15, do you realize the kill range of an AR-15?
No, what's the kill range?
The kill range is almost 3/4 of a mile.
What?
So if you miss your target, you can kill somebody that you can't see.
3/4 of a mile. Oh,
yes, you can kill somebody that you can't even see. Some of these weapons, these high caliber weapons, even what the police department uses. Now, and I'm going to go back to the lady, Miss Taylor, we just killed. You get hit with a 40 caliber bullet, you're going down. This is what has become standard issue for police officers. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have it, but understand, people, the damage that these bullets can do. I mean, when I came on, just before I retired, they were just going to 9mm as standard use. And now we're up to 40 caliber bullets. You get hit once or twice and you're down. So somebody who's getting shot 4, 5, and 6 times with a 40 caliber weapon, that's just an overkill. That's just ridiculous. But I get diverse because we're talking about mental illness.
That's a question though, to revise those laws, would they have to be at the state level to do that?
No, there has to, that's a federal law.
Federal, okay.
So the Constitution would have to be changed. And right now, the NRA is pouring so much money and has bought so many people in the Republican Party primarily, but also some Democrats, that they feel that they can keep that law in force and working because it makes big money for the gun industry.
But what about that state attorney general of New York? I thought she was trying to dismantle the NRA.
Correct. That's still in the progress. That's because of fraud and misuse of funds.
Right.
Correct.
LaPierre. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Wow.
LaPierre, Mr. LaPierre. Yeah. Yeah, it's, I didn't mean to go off on the Second Amendment, but this is all, right now, it's gotten out of hand.
But his supporters were out here touting that as a reason, rationale. I saw somebody bought some military style weapons to a Disney World or something recently.
Don't know.
To Disney World.
No.
Bought some military style.
I don't know.
Again, as I stated, we the people.
Yeah.
Everything begins with we the people. I don't know. I mean, I'm listening. This is one of those rare tapings where it's more advantageous for me to listen than to respond.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that, yeah, I agree. Doctor, I think your first 5 minutes or so were just so profound and so informative.
I haven't even finished reading the